Hello, my name is Catherine. Welcome to my video. Today I'm going to be speaking about my experience travelling the Australian East Coast. I went in November and December 2023 and I travelled with my twin sister going from Cairns all the way down to Melbourne. We travelled for 6 weeks and this video is going to be about how we booked it, where we went, the activities we did, and some of the questions that I had when I was worrying and booking my trip, and I was a little bit unorganised, so hopefully this provides some help and some tips and gives you some inspiration for your trip too. So a little bit of a disclaimer, my sister and I booked our trip extremely last minute. We already had our flights from New Zealand to Australia booked, but we didn't have a plan for once we got to Australia. We had been travelling New Zealand for just over 6 weeks. We knew that we were going to Australia, but we hadn't actually planned it. We just knew that we wanted to end in Melbourne and we wanted to go along the East Coast. So we were quite last minute when we booked. So we decided to book our trip using My Adventure Project. They're effectively a travel agent that helps to book trips across Australia, particularly the East Coast. We decided to go with My Adventure Project because some of our other friends that we met whilst travelling in New Zealand were also booking their trips with My Adventure Project. And initially we did think, we'll book our own trip, we'll do it all ourselves, like we know approximately where we want to go, it'll be fine. But we ended up booking through My Adventure Project because we were so last minute, and we just found it was getting really busy in the hostels. Like, it was hard to find good bookings in some of the places that we wanted to go to. We couldn't quite work out when we wanted to do each thing, what activities we wanted to do, and which buses to book onto, especially the thought of booking our overnight buses. It just felt like a lot, and to be honest, we were quite tired after travelling New Zealand for the past few weeks, so we decided to give somebody else the task of booking for us. So the process of booking with My Adventure Project, we had a look at the different options online. I believe they do small group travelling options, or you can book your own itinerary with them and they plan it all for you. So that's what we decided to do. And we spoke to a travel representative for the company, and we basically had a phone call and they double checked with us what we were looking for. So we wanted to travel for 6 weeks and we wanted to end in Melbourne and start in Cairns. So they looked at all the options for us, where we wanted to go in between and any activities that we wanted to do, and they asked what sort of accommodation we wanted, whether we wanted dorms, like small private rooms, or like female only, any activities that they had on offer. So they sent through a brochure of the things that you can choose to like go in for, and yeah, if there was anything that you weren't interested in. So they sent through the list of everything that could be included in certain packages, and we said yes to mostly all of it, to be honest. But then when it went to booking it, it turned out that we couldn't have some of the activities because we were last minute and they were already fully booked. So some alternatives were booked for us instead, and that was fine. If we had booked it ourselves, that also would have happened. So like, you live and you learn, it's just a lesson, isn't it? We found the process to be very smooth. We paid through a secure online system. We had our phone calls back and forth with our representative to check what we wanted. And then once we did it, once it was confirmed, they sent through all of our travel passes, all of our hotel bookings, our hostel bookings, all of our activity bookings. And we had a discussion on I think Zoom call to say like any questions that we had, anything we were unsure of, anything that we wanted to clear up before we went off on our trip. It was a really smooth and easy process. Any questions we had, the team were really quick to answer, and they were very knowledgeable. They've booked hundreds and hundreds of trips like this before, so they could answer anything that we were worried about, confirm any details for worriers like me, and it just felt so much easier to put it in the hands of an expert and have them tailor a trip just for our experience. They know what works, they know what's good, so they just want you to have a good time. A big question that I'm sure a lot of people are wondering would be, how much does this cost? So for our option, we were travelling for 6 weeks and staying in mixed dorms. We did want to originally book to stay in private rooms where possible, but because we were last minute, it just couldn't be guaranteed. Then we wanted to book onto female only dorm rooms, but again, it couldn't be guaranteed. But for the most part, it was single gender rooms. So that did affect the price slightly because it just makes it slightly trickier for the team to book. And it included all the activities that we had agreed to, that we wanted to do from their list. So altogether, for the hostels, the Greyhound buses and the activities, it came to just under 2,900 UK pounds. And it might sound quite expensive, but personally, I was very happy to pay that price. We were traveling for 6 weeks, and obviously you have to pay for your visas to be in Australia, your flights into Australia and your food, etc. while you're there. But £2,900 for 6 weeks of travel, basically all the big things included, that's like less than £500 per week. So I was very happy to pay that and to have all of the admin and the organisation done for me. I could just focus on showing up, following my itinerary and having a fun time. One thing that I was so worried about when travelling Australia was if I was too old. So I am 28 years old, I am a twin, my sister is 28 years old, and we were travelling together. We were a little bit worried that we would feel older than the rest of the travellers, but honestly, we just weren't. But honestly, we met people of all different ages, from lots of different countries, lots of different backgrounds, all sorts. We did meet people older than us and younger than us, but I would say generally in the hostels that we stayed in, there was a little bit of a younger crowd, like late teens, early 20s. Lots of people, especially lots of Brits, who were travelling from the UK to do gap years or working holiday visas, like in between uni or just after uni. But also we met lots of people in their 30s and 40s too. There's not really like age limits on a lot of the hostels. Yeah, so it is a mixed crowd. I would say we were in Airlie Beach at the same time as schoolies, so there were a lot of fresh out of high school or college, whatever age that is, teenagers all around us in Airlie Beach, but that was just a timing thing, so we did feel a little bit older there, but nothing to worry about. So what luggage can you bring? This was something that I worried about myself. As I mentioned in my New Zealand travel video, I am an overpacker. I do not travel light, but I found that Greyhound buses were quite accommodating. They cater to lots of different types of travellers, not just backpackers, it's for everybody. So the requirements for luggage on a Greyhound bus was up to 8 kilograms on one personal day bag, so that's what goes onto the bus with you and can be put in like in front of the seat or above your head, and then up to 2 larger pieces of luggage to be stored under the bus, so they can be up to 20 kilograms each. We found that the majority of travellers on our buses were using large backpacks or large suitcases. We saw lots and lots of wheelie suitcases in Australia, a lot of cities to visit in Australia, so you can wheel your case quite easily in a lot of those places. Some Greyhound bus drivers were a little bit more picky about how much you could take onto the bus with you, especially because they get quite full and people are getting off and on at different stops throughout the route. We saw lots of different types of luggage on the buses. We even saw a surfboard being stored underneath. So yeah, the drivers are very experienced and very skilled in how to efficiently pack a coach. So what are the buses like? Greyhound Australia buses. So what are the Greyhound Australia buses like? I mean, they are large coaches that go across the country doing lots of different routes across Australia, particularly down the east coast. So they are your typical very large coach with under coach storage for all of the luggage. They have a toilet at the back, curtains to block the light, air conditioning, and the seats recline. They're not the most comfortable, but it's very much they do their job. I would say that I highly recommend dressing comfortably when you're traveling on the coach, because there's a lot of bodies on that coach and it's hard to regulate the temperature. I always travelled with a little light shirt or scarf to like cover me if lots of people had the aircon on and I was a little bit chilly. To accept that, especially on an overnight bus, people are going to want to recline the seats and there isn't a lot of room. I'm only 5'3" and even I found the seats quite tight and uncomfortable for my very short legs, especially on an overnight journey. I would say though that the closer to the back you are on the buses, the more room you seem to have. I think it's just the way the seats are spaced out, but it does mean that you're closer to the toilet. And then there are USB charging ports on the buses. Most of the time they worked, but we did have one short journey, then one overnight bus where they didn't work at all. So everyone was on very low charge by the time we reached our destination in the morning. But for the most part, they're fit for purpose. They're getting you from A to B affordably. And yeah, I mean, it's traveling on a coach for a long journey, so it is what it is. So what is the accommodation like? My adventure projects have certain accommodations that they are, I guess, working with, that they tend to book with, and they are typically hostels. The hostels really do vary from location to location. Some of them are much older and very well used than others, and then some are much more fresh and modern and spacious. So it really does depend on where you are and the hostels that you're staying in. As I said earlier in the video, we wanted to book private rooms where possible, but it wasn't possible for us. So we were in a lot of mixed gender dorm rooms of various sizes. I think the smallest dorm we had was a 4-person room. And I think the largest was maybe 10 people. For the most part, we were staying with other girls, but again, that's not always possible. There's people of different ages, different nationalities, different backgrounds. I mean, for the most part, everybody we encountered was friendly and nice. You meet a lot of people who are doing the same routes as you. We did meet a few people in some locations that ended up in the same dorm as them again, just by chance, which was quite funny. But yeah, there are lots of really nice accommodations. I found in particular that bunk hostels in the cities were more spacious and nice. I didn't love the bounce hostel in Cairns. I did have a bit of a bad experience though, as our dorm switched from being all females to me and my sister being the only girls in there for our final night, and then lots of men moved in. And I did unfortunately have some of my underwear stolen, which isn't great, but that's no reflection on my adventure project. And I guess it could happen anywhere in the world. It's just unlucky that the person in the bunk above me was a bit creepy. For the most part though, I always felt safe. I was mostly comfortable. I mean, some bunks are old mattresses that have been used a lot. Some are a bit creaky. It is sort of luck of the draw if you manage to get a bottom bunk or a top bunk. And yeah, I would say that I'm not necessarily in a rush to stay in an Australian hostel again. It's not the fault of Australia or hostels in Australia, but at the end of the day, I'm 28 years old and I've learnt that I like my own space and I like a large comfy bed with minimum 2 pillows. And it's just a comfort thing, it's just a choice thing. I'm glad I did it, I had a good time, but I'm not in a rush to be climbing up a rickety bunk bed. It's just a personal preference. I'm sure there's lots of people that don't mind that, but I don't feel most graceful when I'm going up and down the ladder on a bunk bed at like midnight after some drinks. So yeah, there we go. We did also stay in some really lovely accommodations. I really liked the Selena, I think it's an animal reserve on Magnetic Island. They've got lots of koalas there and lots of different animals rolling around. They're like log cabins that we were booked into, but people also camp there. And yeah, that was lovely. We were in a nice small room, but it was really clean, really lovely accommodation, and I would highly recommend staying in Selena accommodations. What else was there? I do have to say that halfway through our 6 weeks we did book into an Airbnb apartment in Noosa because we'd both gotten a little bit unwell. We were covered in mosquito bites and we just didn't want to be in a huge 10-person dorm room when we felt unwell, like for the sake of other people as well as ourselves, because you don't want to be passing around your germs. So we cancelled our accommodation. My Adventure Project were lovely. They actually managed to get us a refund, which we didn't expect because I think we cancelled it just a few days before and it was for no other reason other than we didn't really want to stay there. So yeah, we booked our own Airbnb separately and stayed in gorgeous double beds each and had a lovely balcony and a nice pool to stay in, and it was a lovely break and perfect for while we were feeling very unwell and run down after a long stint of travelling. And I guess it just catches up with you, doesn't it? There are so many different activities on offer when you book through My Adventure Project. The company seems to have links with different activity providers in each of the locations, and there's just something for everyone. You can do more adventurous things like going on big treks and hikes, going to different waterfalls to jump off and slide down and swim in gorgeous pools. On lots of boat trips, you can do skydiving, water sports. Honestly, there's just so much. I mean, some people are more adventurous than others, but you don't necessarily have to do the thrill-seeking, adrenaline junkie activities. You can find lots of other things to do too. And then whilst you're there, if you want to book on an activity, it's easy to book on with reps that are in the shops nearby, or if you want to contact your rep at My Adventure Project, they can help you with any bookings. For the next part of this video, I'm going to be sharing the route that we took, the locations that we went to, the different activities that we did, and some beautiful sights that we saw along the way. today. I hope you found it informative and inspiring, and maybe if you're planning your Australia trip, I hope you're feeling excited and ready to go. Thank you for joining me. I hope to see you in a future video. Goodbye.